Hey guys, welcome to the Bourboneering podcast and YouTube channel. This is a crossover episode. I'm your host, Austin. Let's get started. So this is not going to be a normal thing. I'm not going to have podcast episode and YouTube videos be the same recording every time. This is just the re-release of Bourboneering. I am rebooting my podcast in the sense of changing up the kind of the layout. I'm making sure my YouTube channel stays up to date, post video weekly. We're going to launch all that. I'm going to go through a whole list of everything that's changed, everything that's going to stay the same. So if this is your first time with me, welcome to Bourboneering. If you've been a long time listener / watcher, welcome back. Again, I'm filming for YouTube people. I'm filming this on my phone. I'm sorry. The quality is going to be a lot better normally. This is just so I can get the information out there. So, hi everybody. Let me grab my list here, my notes to go over everything that we're going to talk about for the next, hopefully forever. I want to cover a few topics today, including what's new about the podcast, what's new about the YouTube channel, the community I'm trying to build. I'm launching a Patreon. Actually, it's launched as of this episode starting today. And I'm talking about my new way of reviewing whiskey. So let's just go down the list. It's kind of a lot of information. I just want everybody to be aware and to give me their feedback on this. Starting with the podcast, it's not going to change in the sense it's still going to be whiskey nerddom. We're going to be nerding out about different things. We're going to have distillery highlights and all sorts of things like that. I'm just focusing on more long form episodes, more informational episodes, instead of just the short whiskey reviews. There'll be some of those from time to time, but it's going to be a lot of whiskey knowledge. You're still going to be following my whiskey journey, but I like to think that I've gone up from a whiskey noob to know a little bit more. I'm still not an expert by any means. I'm not deleting any old content, so all the archive's still there. Go check out the old stuff from when I started as Bourbon in college, now Bourboneering. I'm going to be doing more interviews, or same sort of interviews. Those were my longer form episodes before. Those are going to stay the same as much as I can get them. I'm going to do some distillery highlights, like I said, where either that might be part of an interview, or it might just me shouting out a smaller kind of craft distillery that I really like. I want to share my knowledge. Some episodes are going to be more basic, some are going to be more advanced, and I'll give you a warning ahead of time, and I'll shout out some different episodes to check out if it's a more advanced episode, to kind of go check out and get that knowledge base. And of course, I'm going to do whiskey reviews with every episode. I'm going to go deep into that later, but that's going to be part of it as well. Let me introduce myself before we go any further for anybody who's new. I'm Austin. I am a recent engineering graduate in mechanical engineering from LSU. I originally started this podcast as bourbon in college because I was in college learning about bourbon, nerding out, and going through my journey. I then advanced to bourboneering because I got a job in engineering. But this premise stayed the same. I was a whiskey noob. I was learning things, and I shared that information with you. That hasn't changed. That's still going to be the case, even though I'm more of a novice / expert now, I would say, in at least whiskey trivia, not necessarily the tasting and the smelling, but the whiskey trivia. And I'm still growing in the tasting notes, growing my palate and things like that. So that's kind of where we are now. That's me. I'm Austin. I'm very reachable. My email's out there. Instagram's the best way to reach me if you want to talk to me about something, but we'll get in that in a second. I want to talk about the YouTube channel now. Hey, YouTube again. I know this is not a very fun video for you, but I know there's some people who only watch on YouTube and some people who only listen to the podcast, and I want to get this information out. So I'm going to continue doing weekly videos, posting them right now on Wednesday. I'll let you know if that changes, doing some special episodes every now and then. My content's going to be mixology, so different cocktail recipes from basics again to a more advanced as I learn. I'm going to talk about some wine sometimes. That's when we're going to be the wine, and maybe some beer reviews are going to be on YouTube generally. I'm learning wine and beer as well. My experiments, I have one going now, which I'll update you on later, of a whiskey. I have a bottle of whiskey that I filled halfway into 2 full bottles. That makes sense? So there's half air. It's to test the effect of air and air time on a whiskey. So of those two, one has just air in it, so it's half full of whiskey in the air. The other one has a wine preserver that's like boron or something like that, that's heavier than air. and it's supposed to preserve the wine, so I'm going to see if it preserves whiskey. And I have a couple sample bottles that are completely full, so we'll get a really good comparison to those. I'm going to check it at, I believe, 2 months, so I'll be doing that very soon in February. 6 months and a year, and we're going to see how that goes from there. So that's all going to be on YouTube. I'm also doing some flights on YouTube. That's all going to be YouTube videos. I'm really excited to do that. Now, the community. This is what I'm really excited about. This is what I want to build, and I have one kind of building, and I want to grow it. Community is important to me. The best way to build a community for me, my Instagram, is kind of how I got started as well. It's at Bourboneering on Instagram. It's all linked down below and everything. Go follow me. That's where I interact with everybody. That's where I post. I post almost daily, different photos and updates on the podcast, YouTube channel, all that. And I interact with other Instagrammers and listeners. So go check that out. I'm also starting to build a Discord channel. It's released. The link is below. There's not many members yet, and if you want to join, feel free. It's a nice open forum. As long as everyone's kind and congenial, you can talk about whatever you want. I'm not going to be strict on it right now. If it gets bad, I will. But that's the link down below. There's chats for bourbon, scotch, rye, beer, wine, whatever, sports, whatever you want to talk about. That's going to be down below. And of course, a lot of my listeners are members of this already, but I want to shout out the Baton Rouge Bourbon Society. That's another great community that if you're in the Louisiana area that you should check out. If you're not, don't worry about it. I'm building my community as well. And then Facebook. I have a Facebook page. Check it out. A lot of things get reposted there, but I'm not on it that often. I'm just not a Facebook person. So I really suggest Instagram and Discord for that. We'll see if I get, build enough base, maybe get some people to help me out with that, but we'll see. Finally, today launches my Patreon. This, if you don't know what Patreon is, it's where you can do a monthly or weekly donation to the show, to creators in general that you like, not just me. I highly suggest go help out whoever you can, and you get some rewards for that. So I'm gonna go through my tiers. This is 100% of the money goes toward the show, making it better, equipment, maybe buying bottles, different things like that. But it's all for the show. I don't need the money. It would be nice to keep the show running. That's what will help the show get better with better equipment, things like that. It's not like I'm in need of money to survive right now. Again, knock on wood, I'm blessed with the job and everything. I'm not worried about that. So, there's other people who need stuff like that. This is, if you feel like you enjoy the show and you feel like you want to help it improve, that's how you do it. So for $1 a month, everything's going to be monthly. The first tier, $1 a month, will be called the Mellow Corns. You'll get a video version of the podcast, similar to what I'm doing here, but it'll be on a patron-only feed. And I start the video before I set up. I don't stop the video as I stop recording and edit and things like that. So it's behind the scenes, and it's going to get posted usually at least a day before the podcast comes out. I can't always guarantee that, but that's what it's looking right now. So it's behind the scenes early, and it's a video, so it's fun. For $3 a month, you get everything that the Mellow Corns get. Oh, I'm sorry. There's also a Discord link that's to a patron-only chat in the Discord. For $3 a month, the Blantons, you get the same as the Mellow Corns, plus a monthly extra podcast episode, which I think is really cool. It's just an episode just for patrons, a little more lax, a little more free form. Of course, there'll be a video version of that as well. And just talk about whatever y'all want to talk about, whatever, is kind of the happening in whiskey right there. And then, sorry about that, guys. We had a little issue. I'm back at it now. So going back over the Blantons tier, we have, give me my notes out. Like I said, we have the same thing as the Mellow Corns. You have an extra monthly podcast that's kind of just whatever the topic of the day is. And then you get a podcast shout out on every podcast. So that's going to be, excuse my dog in the background. My neighbors decided to unload something that she doesn't like. You get a podcast shout out on every podcast. So that's going to be cool. That starts after a couple months. It's not going to be your first month at podcast shout out, but that's going to be permanent as long as you're at that level or above. Now for $5 a month, you'll become a barrel pick, and you get the same thing as the Blantons but you also get an extra monthly YouTube video about an experiment or something like that I'm doing, a blend. I don't know, whatever you want to talk about. And also, if you remember this perk for a while, you get to pick the topic of maybe an episode, maybe a patron podcast or a patron video. We'll see how that works. But that's where I'm at on the Patreon that launches today. So if you feel like you want to, check it out. Finally, my whiskey reviews. This is going to be the last topic of the day. I'm not going to do a review today. This is just a relaunch. I'll be back at next week for the full episode. But whiskey reviews, my scoring, it's going to be still 3 categories. I'm going to first give you all the bottle information. This is not part of my judging. I'm going to give you obviously what whiskey it is, but ABV. I'm going to give you the average price and give you a rough estimation of its availability. That's all stuff that kind of got lumped into my value category before. I'm not doing a value category anymore. I'm doing purely nose, taste, and I'm separating out finish. That's going to be my average scores, and I'm going to let you be the informed consumer by telling you the price and the rough availability. All these bottles are going to be put at the end of the year, going to be put in March at least, going to be put in a bracket battle. At least the top 32 are. So, and we're going to do a March Madness type style. So that's what's going to be fun. I'm going to be using whiskeys using the old scoring method for this March, next month. But starting for next year, it's going to be just this new scoring system. But that's what I got. Thanks for putting up with all this information, y'all. I hope it was interesting and helpful. I can't wait to see where this channel is going to be going. So shout out to y'all for making this happen. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Thanks for listening, guys. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you subscribe on whichever player you're using. Leave a comment and leave a 5-star review if you can. Once you've done that, go follow me on Instagram at Bourboneering or on Twitter at InBourbon, or go like our Facebook page, Bourboneering. All this, as well as my Prestige Decanter affiliate link and a link to sign up for a weekly newsletter, are all below. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cheers.